It's just too beautiful of a day not to bring us out here for class. I always love those moments in school when the teacher would say, "Class outside today." So here we are. So we're exploring really four of the seven factors of awakening. And I love the seven factors of awakening. There are so many wonderful teachings in contemplative wisdom and Buddhism. And I particularly gravitate to these seven because it invites us to strengthen the capacities and qualities that help us have a a mind that is really our best mind, a mind that we can bring to any moment in life, that we can bring to hearing the toughest news or receiving, heartbreaking information, or witnessing the most beautiful, miraculous moment, which is actually what I did witness right out here on Friday night. I was sitting here with a neighbor, Barb, my 82-year-old friend who lives down the street, and we looked up and we saw this incredible, we think it was a lady, but spider. And she was weaving the most amazing spider web. And I think it was 2.5 feet in all directions, perfectly symmetrical. And we just watched her. I was sitting side by side on the bench with Barb, and I moved and got a chair so we could just watch this Friday night show. And that miracle of witnessing her incredible skill and the balance and the symmetry and bringing that paying attention, be astonished, tell about it. That's Mary Oliver. Just that ability to bring our very best mind to the miracles that are present in everyday life so that we actually see them, and have a mind that is agile and flexible and skillful, that has options when life is really hard. That's also the best mind. So these seven factors of awakening, four of which we're exploring this week, have been so profound in my own path and in my students and clients that I created a course in my company, Purpose Blue, called Cultivating Your Best Mind, because it's it's a possibility. I don't know that we're always taught that we can like hone the mind, we can cultivate the best possible mind, and of course mind body are integrated so that we can navigate life. We practice a lot, and I teach a lot and practice on my own a lot about working with difficult emotions and noticing conditioning and noticing habit patterns and becoming free and letting go, working with acceptance, working with allowing. These are all such important strategies and skills too. These seven factors, however, are factors that allow us to move towards tranquility, inner peace, equanimity. So in the context of today's world, I've really wanted us to step into them in a deeper way. So we might ask, what are the seven factors? The first is mindfulness, and that's what we all kind of know pretty well, the paying attention on purpose in the present moment. It's tuning into our direct experience. And I'll take number one, mindfulness, and I'm going to slide it over visually. If you're a visual person, you might imagine right now a seesaw, and you might envision that we're putting mindfulness in the middle of the seesaw as the fulcrum, as the the piece that's allowing the seesaw to move back and forth. And so mindfulness is there, and on one side of the seesaw, on one seat, we have energizing factors that are uplifting the mind. And on the other side of the seesaw, we have calming factors. And this is the balance that we're cultivating. We don't want to be, too far tilted on one side all the time, where we're, very enthusiastic, very energized, super excited, all of that. Like it's almost an energy that can knock us out of that grounded, calm, abiding. And on the other hand, where we've got the factors of calm, concentration, tranquility, equanimity, these are calming factors, and they're quite beautiful. But if we're only kind of on that side, we might lose that helpful quality of inquiry, that curiosity, that energy that comes from paying deeper attention. So the Buddha, in his teachings of the 7 factors, has given us this beautiful balance. Sometimes these 7 factors are called the treasures, the inner treasures, and I see them that way. So mindfulness at the fulcrum of the seesaw, it really, of course, is running in each one of the 7, but it's also the piece that is reminding us that we are paying attention to this life that's right here. And we're asking ourselves, it's really a deep question of self-compassion. Sweetheart, what do you need right now? So we might need a little more energy, or we might need a little more concentration, unified mind, or we might need a little more equanimity when we find ourselves being whiplashed and whipping around with the news of the day, getting overly angry, overly excited, even overly joyful. We might recognize, I need to work my way back to equanimity and calm. So mindfulness is there to be the grounded center, to help us ask, what's happening in my direct experience? And what's alive in me? And what do I need? What do I need to invite in a little more of? So I want to go through each of the 7 factors. No, not each of the 7. We just went through an overview, but what I want to do in this class is just go a little bit more into understanding the qualities of the energizing factors. The way of being curious, the way of using the skill of inquiry can be really powerful. And I invite you to really pick a day this week, maybe pick 2 days for curiosity and 2 days for energy and 2 days for joy. Just really just taking this one quality and saying, I'm going to really put it at the forefront today. How can I be more curious? We may remember that Suzuki Roshi said, in the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities, but in the expert's mind, there are few. I use this quote a lot with the leaders that I coach and do retreats for, because what we see is that, and we could be a leader in our craft, we could be a potter, we could be a tailor, we could be a leader of product development in a company, we could be the leader of a volunteer organization. So as we are in our domain of expertise, we start to lose the expansiveness of what's possible in the present moment. Because as we become more expert, we fall prey to the trap of knowing just what the right answer is, knowing which tool to take out of the tool bag. And we start to close the mind. So curiosity is inviting in this childlike wonder of having a beginner's mind. It's a path to freedom because it interrupts judgment. It interrupts certainty. It interrupts distance. When we're more curious, we invite people in. It shifts our state of being from certainty to wonder. And one of my most favorite and effective ways of cultivating curiosity on a regular basis is through the work of Byron Katie. Byron Katie, her partner is Stephen Mitchell. They're both amazing teachers and authors. It's just a phenomenal beacon of transformation and growth. And she gives us 4 questions to ask. That's called the work. Some of you may be familiar with the work. The first is it true? So when we have a thought, this person shouldn't have said this to me, or, our political leader shouldn't have made that decision, or, I, my parent abandoned me, or my child's in danger. Whatever the thought is that's creating a lot of struggle, a lot of suffering, that's where the work begins. And we ask, is it true, this belief? The second question, because often the ego said, darn right it's true. Yeah. So the second question is, can I absolutely know that it's true? Can I be sure? Absolutely. If there's even a maybe, we answer no to that. And then here is super powerful. Number 3, how do I react when I believe that thought? My parent abandoned me, or my partner shouldn't have said that, or that decision, that political decision shouldn't have been made that way. How do I react? Another way of asking that is, who am I when I'm believing that? When I'm believing this painful thought, my child is in danger, this person shouldn't have said that, what happens in the body? What happens to you? So do that with me right now. Pick a thought, a belief about something that's you're struggling with in your life. It might be in the greater world, it might be in your personal world. It might be a health diagnosis. And then ask yourself, who am I when I believe that thought? That life shouldn't be just as it is, that this shouldn't have happened that way, or that even that's true. So we sense into the contraction that happens, the tightness, the mind narrowing possibilities. And then we can say, who would I be without that thought? I'll let you practice that in your own mind. Who would I be without that thought? How would I feel? How would my body feel? How would I act? How would I sleep? Who would I be without that thought? So curiosity invites us, as Thich Nhat Hanh says, to look more deeply, to really get underneath. And what happens when we do that is we move from the prison of the stories in our mind, the narratives that we tell ourselves, to the openness of discovery. And with that discovery, with that new way of seeing, with like, wow, maybe that's also true. That is where energy flows in, the energy of engagement. Curiosity naturally stirs energy. When we're interested, we want to stay awake. We want to pay attention. We know that from watching a good movie on Netflix. When it's really interesting, when we're curious, when we're engaged, when we want to know what happens next, we want to stay awake. I actually heard this week on the NPR show, Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me, which I've loved for so long. And my family, for years, we would have to drive my daughter somewhere on Saturdays to soccer games and practices and all the things. And we always, as a family, listened to Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me in the car. We just loved it, shouting out the answers to the questions. And I found it actually, it's probably been there forever, but this week I found it as a podcast. So now I'm like, oh my gosh, I can have Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me on demand. And it's really, even the title is just illustrative of the factor of awakening of curiosity. It's like, wait, 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 don't tell me. But what I heard on that podcast is that recent research has shown that binging Netflix is helpful. It's good for the mind. So if you don't want to meditate, you could instead binge your favorite show on Netflix. Why, you might ask? Here comes curiosity. Because when we binge a show, the study is showing, when we're watching one episode after the next, the mind is very engaged. The mind is very curious, and it starts scenario planning. It starts guessing what's coming next and what might happen next and what will happen to that character and where will the plot turn. So it actually engages the mind. And that's the factor of energy in the 7 factors of awakening, the energy of a mind that's awake and alive. So energy is not forcing or pushing, it's a vitality. It's the willingness. It gives us willingness to continue when things are difficult. It helps us to stay true to the course, true to the path. When energy is present, our meditation practice, our mindfulness practice becomes a joy rather than a burden. So we might even connect with our deepest intention of practice. Why am I on this path at all? Why not just binge Netflix, since we know that's good for us too? What do I care most about? What is the flame I am tending? What is the flame? What is that inner fire, that radiant light? What am I tending when I practice? So we've got mindfulness, curiosity, and energy. And then that brings us to the 4th factor, which is joy. Joy is not something that we strive to attain. It's a natural flowering. It's a natural unfolding of mindfulness, curiosity, and energy. The Buddha saw joy, which is also known as piti, as the antidote to despair and heaviness. And that's why I'm focusing in this class on one side of the seesaw plus the fulcrum, is there's a lot of despair and heaviness in the world right now. Um, it's it's so heavy when we tune in daily to what's happening. And I don't encourage that we put our head in the sand, but when we tune in, it's like putting another sandbag on that side of the seesaw. And it's heavy, and it gets heavier, and it gets heavier, and the emotion of despair can arise, or hopelessness. or deep sadness or anger, or fear. And so with that, and these are natural human responses to what's happening in the world, for those who are paying attention and care, it's important for us to cultivate the qualities on the other side of the seesaw. So this is the way, some people will say, I can't bear putting more sandbags on that side of the seesaw, so I'm just not going to pay attention. And in some cases, that's a healthy choice. But we can stay engaged in this world and nourish and cultivate the energizing qualities. So joy refreshes the heart. It uplifts the mind. Uplifting the mind is not only something we know to do from the teaching of the Buddha, it's also what we're discovering and have discovered in positive psychology. One of the pioneers of positive psychology, Barbara Fredrickson, developed a widely tested and evidence-based model called the broaden and build theory. And the broaden and build theory shows that joy is one of those qualities of the mind that has a very beneficial effect on us. When we cultivate joy and we just walk through the pathway to work with the mind to allow joy to arise, when we cultivate joy, it broadens the mind. It expands awareness and increases our ability to see possibility. When we are in despair, when we are in fear, when we are feeling scarcity, when we are feeling threatened, it narrows the mind. This is a biological situation. This is not a theory. It narrows the mind so that we can focus and flee or fight. So when we're running from danger, we want to be able to see where to go and get the heck out. So the mind narrows when we've got a lot of difficult emotion. And when we cultivate a positive, uplifted, joyful mind, it expands the mind. And we start to see possibilities, and we start to see where we can become engaged, where we can take action, where we can invite a neighbor over, where we can pause and tune into all the things we are able to be grateful for in this present moment. And all of a sudden, we start placing sandbags on the other side of the seesaw. So this broaden and build theory from Barbara Fredrickson shows that when we're cultivating joy, we are actually increasing our inner resources. This is skillful means. We are increasing inner resources by cultivating joy. We are building resilience. We are creating connection to self and others. Joy is not something we have to wait for. The other night when I was sitting here Friday night, and Barbara actually looked up and said, "Oh my gosh, look at that spider web." That was, that was an exciting moment where joy came to us. This beautiful spider came to the threshold of my home, the liminal space between the inner and the outer. And she brought and showed to me actually what's possible when we focus, when we allow creativity to flow. So joy arose here, but we don't have to wait for that. We can practice. We can carve out 15 minutes a day to sit in nature, to find a park, to find a corner of the backyard, to find the tree that's behind me, and work with the mind in a skillful way. So joy reminds us that even in the turbulence of this life, accessing these qualities is a miracle that is available to us. We each and every one of us have that. So the 7 factors are seeds we water. Today, we've touched 3 energizing factors: curiosity, energy, and joy, all rooted in mindfulness. And together, they give us the strength in the midst of chaos. They give us buoyancy in the face of grief. They give us capacity to meet life not with despair, but with resilience and love. So you might close your eyes, feeling the breath, the body. And I'll share this invitation. May we remember to be mindful. May we stay curious. May we cultivate steady energy. May we allow joy. And may these qualities together strengthen our hearts and allow us to meet this world with compassion. Taking a deep breath in together, and on the exhale, sending out loving kindness to everyone here in this moment, everyone listening after. When you're ready, opening your eyes. Thank you for practicing.